responsibility and following the law will always be intertwined with heartache and tragedy. This case is about three things. It's about watching, it's about waiting, it's about believing. Travis McMichael spent almost a decade of his life learning about duty and responsibility. He received extensive training on how to make decisions that would ultimately impact his beliefs as a petty officer in the Coast Guard, as a boarding officer in the Coast Guard, into some of the most treacherous waters extending some 200 miles off the coast of the United States. He trained relentlessly about his duty and his responsibility. Even after active service and then coming into smaller communities and working in the Coast Guard, he trained weekly, sometimes daily, on what the law provided that he do, what his responsibilities were, how he would make decisions in critical moments of policing and in critical moments of rescue. These teachings were burned within his brain to the point of muscle memory so that he could perform his duty and his responsibility to his country and his community. He talked to you about officer presence and how he trained for officer presence. He talked with you about verbal commands and how he would use verbal commands to try to police or to try to calm or to try to de-escalate situations. He talked with you about control techniques and the things that he would have to use to get control from those persons who he was investigating. Aggressive response techniques, something that he never had to use on his job, but something that he trained weekly, every Friday with the red man suit. And he talked with you also about intermediate weapons, weapons retention, and the use of deadly force. Travis spent a long time going through these things in his testimony. If you recall, I was writing feverishly as he was testifying so that I could capture what it was that he had to share with us about these things. And it includes what gave him the right to search, examine, arrest, seize, inspect, inquire. He talked with you about the level of suspicion by a reasonable and prudent person given the overall circumstances to believe that crime has been committed, probable cause. He spoke with you about the use of force continuum. He talked with you about de-escalation and how de-escalation was always the goal. He talked with you about leaps, listen, empathize, ask questions, paraphrase, summarize. Why? So that you could gain understanding, so that you could continue to investigate, de-escalate, learn what's going on, and figure it out. And he talked also about weapon retention and using a weapon, if it had to come to that, to de-escalate a situation. When Travis moved back home to Satilla Shores, he did so with his 3-year-old son, Everett. He moved in with his mother and his father, and then eventually his sister joined them in the home. You've heard about Satilla Shores from several witnesses who came to talk to you about what they were experiencing in this once idyllic neighborhood. A neighborhood that was once a place where elderly would walk at night, kids would play after dark. But over time, how that began to lessen. And Travis began to notice it, among others, about how things in the neighborhood started to change. From learning that the GBI went around, to learning that Officer Rash went around, to what was being posted on Facebook, to hearing from witnesses on the stand, to hearing Rash talk about driving through the neighborhood, witnesses talking about police cars going through the neighborhood at night, shining flashlights. This neighborhood was being covered in suspicious persons, in extra watches, in neighborhood patrols, in concerned citizens. It was everywhere. It was on Facebook. An account created so neighbors could help each other. And the types of things that these neighbors would talk about to each other was about the crime that was being committed to them, to their neighbors, crime that they had seen happening across the street from them, crime that some was reported but not all. You heard a lot of people talk about, I didn't call the police because what's the point? Crime is over and the people are gone. But they told you that what was happening in their neighborhood scared them. It caused them concern. It was unsettling to imagine people lurking and sneaking around your property at night so that your cameras are going off, your doorbell camera's going off. That's frightening. One of our witnesses testified about how emotional she got because she had to tell her children, you can't go out at night anymore. And the steps that they took to protect each other, using Facebook, hey, be on the lookout. You heard Cindy Clark testify about how she offered to go get license plates on 2 separate occasions for cars coming in the neighborhood. Or how she called the police on a bunch of people that were walking into the neighborhood after their car had supposedly broken down, but it was really stolen. These are real experiences of real people who were very scared. And so they took it upon themselves to do something about it. Got cameras, call the police, notify each other, citizens watch, neighborhood watch. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Even Travis himself had taken it upon himself to try to investigate one particular person that had been identified as possibly being homeless and living under the bridge. Travis explained to you that he had learned about a neighbor having her purse stolen. Of course, there were other complaints of crime in the neighborhood as well, and he thought, after boating home one afternoon and seeing what he thought was a homeless encampment under the bridge, that this could be the guy. So he finished going home. He got his dad, who is a lifetime law enforcement officer and investigator, and they went over and they drove and they walked down under the bridge. And instantly, when Travis did this, you saw evidence of his muscle memory. He talked about walking down, not holding a weapon out, not armed with the gun out. He had his gun with him just in case he needed it for protection. But he walked down to do what? Use leaps, to listen, to have a conversation. And as he walked down under the bridge, he saw a bunch of trash and a bunch of items and a machete and a man fishing. So he followed his training. He politely stepped in between the machete and the man. He said, hey, bud, you living down here? Everything okay? As he's doing that, he's looking around, looking to see if that purse is there. He's looking to see if any of those other stolen items may be there. The man responded, no, just fishing. When they left, they called the police. You have evidence of that. You heard Greg McMichael on the call with the police, non-emergency line, just saying, hey, we want y'all to go check out this guy under the bridge that we've called you about. State asked Travis, well, why don't you describe this fella for us? White, black, Asian, Hispanic. The white guy. Called the police. He was gone by the time the police got there, and that was the end of it. But the man under the bridge, or the idea that there could be a man living under the bridge, did not go away. That theme and that person comes back during 2019. The real problem, as the neighbors in neighborhood of Satilla Shores were trying to figure out what was going on and who may be responsible for it, was that 220 Satilla Drive residents, a residence that had a unique type of crime going on in it, one much different from what they had been experiencing. So dark you can't even see the photograph of it. But it was the photograph of 220 Satilla Shores at night, along with the dock down by the water at night. And what all of these neighbors are going to soon become aware of is that there is a repeat offender who is coming at a time when he has absolutely no lawful reason for being there, just to start with. On October 25th, Larry English calls the police. And we learn from Larry English that there is a man plundering around. Larry English at this time only has 2 cameras, one on the dock and one behind the house looking out in the backyard of the house. Larry English says he looks drunk or on drugs. That's concerning. Larry English identifies to the police, I have a lot of valuables in my house. Tools, equipment, things of that nature. Never seen this gentleman before and it doesn't look good. Police come, but there is no person that is found. What you need to understand about burglary is burglary includes any house, building, or structure which is designed or intended for occupancy for residential use. This unoccupied, unsecure construction site, which could be anything, is not the same thing as Larry English's residence that's being built.